everybody, welcome to another video. Yesterday I attended the Bay City Record Convention over at the Knights of Columbus Hall over by the airport. It was pretty cool. It's the second show that I've gone to from this particular show. First one was at the American Legion Hall, not that just right around the block from my apartment, across from the Meijer over there. But it was, it's a smaller place, but then they ended up moving it to the to the Knights of Columbus Hall, or the KFC Hall, if you call it that, out by the airport. And it was better. It was a lot bigger. It looked more like a convention. It looked a little ramshackled at the Legion Hall. This one was laid out and it had that feel that I knew I was going to go in and have this exact experience, which it pretty much did. Because I've gone to the KFC halls at the one down in Livonia for the comic book conventions, or there was a Legion Hall that was still a pretty good place though too, down in Royal Oak. But I think that the Middle Belt one, the KFC hall, was a little bit better. Like I said, when you go into one of these places, I didn't take any video or any pictures this time. I get so overwhelmed when I go into these places. I'm excited about what I'm going to find. I'm not around a lot of people, so when I'm around a lot of people like that, I get a little, I guess just a little social anxiety. I get a little paranoid. I always think, it's in my mind, but I never was like that before. I'm starting to get like that. And actually, I was like that when I was younger, in my teen years. And then, of course, in my 20s and 30s, I was a lot more social and out with people. Now that I'm, 50 and kind of living the life I did when I was a teenager, I kind of, I have that social anxiety where you spend long periods of time by yourself, and then when you go out where there's, 100 people, I'm a little, it was like that at the concert I just went to, at Pine Knob. I was a little, it's overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of people. And in this case, the same thing. So it's hard to, first thing is, in order to see far away, I've got to put my glasses on. I don't usually wear them when I do these videos because I don't need to. Everything's close. But, so the problem is, it's like I have this thing where, I'm walking around a convention and it's like I need to see farther away to see booths and stuff and see what people have. And then when I get up to look at the records, I've got to, I usually fold them up and put them on my shirt. And it's just one more thing to kind of, monkey with. And then maybe after I've got a couple of albums and I got a bag to carry that I have to keep setting down, and then I'm constantly looking around like, what am I missing, and this was packed. This KFC hall was packed. It was pretty busy. And they had, it was shoulder to shoulder. And you were waiting a couple of minutes to get into the rotation to go through the bins at every booth. So, I kind of started at the one side, and got into the rotation where you're shoulder to shoulder to people until, either they want to switch with you or you switch with them, and you kind of move down the line to see what you got. And then you go to the next booth and you kind of get in that rotation again. So it's really hard. It would be very hard to sit there and record a video unless I had somebody. My son was out running around with his friend because his friend was there too, and his dad. So they were, I didn't really have him as much to rely on to the video, and I don't really want, somebody walking around with me, filming me. I'm a little uncomfortable there too, so I just felt like, I'll forego I was going to take some pictures, but I was there for 2 hours, and I'm good for 2 hours. The other thing is, I can't stand for very long. Like I said, I can go for walks. I've said this in the past. I can go for walks, for 2-3 mile walk, and I'm fine. I'm a little tired when I get back, a little sweaty, but I'm fine. And then bike rides, I'm fine. But if I have to stand in one spot for more than 10 minutes, my back starts to hurt, and I have to sit down. And I looked this up, and of course they talk about, it could be a slip disc, it could be, blah, 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 you have low core strength, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, and then when you're in like a cattle call like that, where you're shoulder to shoulder with people, and you're not really moving or walking. You're doing a lot of standing and then moving and standing and moving and standing. You're walking over to the other booth. After 2 hours, I am lit. I mean, my knees are sore, my back's sore, and I'm like, I'm done. It's about as long as and that's about all I need to get through the whole place is about 2 hours, and see everything that I want to see for the most part. I mean, sure, I might have missed a couple of records, but I have an allowance for myself. That's the other thing is I try not to buy everything in the first 10 minutes, so therefore it's pointless to stay there because I'm not going to spend any more money. But I had set an allowance for myself. I gave myself $75 to spend, and luckily I only spent about 65 of it. And like I said, I mean, so when I see something, I'll come back, and I want to see everything first before I really make a purchase decision. Unless there's something like, okay, that's a good price, and I don't want to lose that, so I'll grab it, which I did. And then that usually you get that bag from the first person, and that usually starts your bag there, and your little tote as you go and collect what you can collect. And wheeling and dealing. I also noticed a lot of people do not want to wheel and deal at the show. I mean, you're not asking for much. You're asking for $2, $3, $5 off of something, and they're very hesitant. Like, oh, I don't know, this is really hard to find. I know, but who else is looking for this specific album today? I got cash in hand. Would you take $5 less? People are pretty hard to haggle with on that. So, I had a list of things I was looking for, and it's pretty. I knew I wasn't going to get a lot because it's hard. A, I didn't have that much money to spend, and B, I knew some of the records on there are going to be hard to find. However, that said, I did luck out right off the bat. So let's get into the records that I did get. The first one I bought was, and of course I've been waiting for it for a long time, is the first Blue Oyster Cult album. It was the fourth booth I went to, I think, and he had it for $20, and then he took what do you call it? He took $15 for it. So he went down $5, and it's a great copy of it. It's an original copy. It's not a reissue. It's got the sleeves fine. I don't think they had an insert with this one. Maybe if they did have an insert, then I didn't get the insert. But I don't think there was an insert with the original Blue Oyster Cult album. Maybe there was. But the record's really clean. There's a little bit. I still have to clean this one. I haven't cleaned this one and listened to it yet. I'm in the process of doing that with I bought 5 albums, by the way, and I spent $65. So do the math. That's about what they cost a piece. But with this one, he was like, oh yeah, I'll take that off of it. And then I did find the other album, which I did buy, but not from him. He had it, and I was really surprised. Now, this album here was a hard one to find because I can't find it online for less. Like on Amazon, third-party sellers selling like a lot, like over $100. Discogs, I've seen a couple people have, $25, $30 with shipping for like OK copies, probably about the same grade. Anything good, I'm seeing like over 50. So to get it for 15, no shipping and just buy it on site, that's the type of deal I like to get. That's the type of experience I like to have with buying these records. So that was a score. So I'm right off the bat. I'm only missing, I'll show you my list of what things I'm kind of missing, but I'm only missing a couple. Really only one studio, well, take that back. I'm missing 4 studio albums that I want and 1 live album to complete my Blue Oyster Cult collection. So there's that. The album I did want to get, of course, and he had it, but he had it for $50. And he said he'd come down 5 on that and give it to me for 45. And of course, if I was talking about, this is one of my favorite albums, and I could not find it for Amazon, less than 50. Discogs about the same, right? And this guy wanted 50 for it. So I wasn't going to spend 50, but I was like, oh, geez, there it is in hand. I really like to get it. The one he had, though, was a colored disc. And I don't remember them doing colored discs from the original, so I was wondering. And he also didn't have the insert, but it was a colored disc with just a plain paper insert. So I was wondering, and I looked to check the disc, it was the right disc, and it didn't say anywhere on the sleeve that it was a reissue, and it did seem kind of heavy. So I was wondering what was going on with that, and I'm not aware that they have a reissue that or colored discs. So yeah, maybe that was a collector's item. Maybe that was worth some money. Again, I'm not buying these for an investment. I'm buying them for my collection, of my albums I want. And so when I did walk, I would walk around a little more, and then when I got to a booth, I found a guy had the thing said psych rock, psychedelic rock, and I said, I wonder. And I went in there, and the first Hawkwind album I found, I can't remember which one it was. And then this was and this was in there, and I went, oh. So I pulled it out. Great shape. They have the insert that was inside of it. The disc was clean. It was a black disc. It wasn't a colored disc. It looked pretty legit. I mean, this is the original copy. So this person had 35 on it. Well, I did want to go back. I didn't buy it right away. I didn't want to go back, so I went back over and checked the other one just to make sure about it. And it's like, then I came over to this guy, and I was like, okay, I'll take this guy's. And I tried to get him to go 30 on it. Wouldn't budge. Would not budge. I'm like, well, 35 is better than 45. 35 is better than 50 online. It's in hand. It's an original copy. It's not anything special that I don't really care about. I don't really care so much about the special editions. Clean disc, like I said, so I'm like, boom, I guess I'm going to guess. That's the most expensive thing I bought, 35. I mean, by today's standards, you buy a double album or a new album's 30, 35 anyway, so I guess it's not really that big of a deal. The other one I found, also not budging, was Mirrors by Blue Oyster Cult. And this is out of all the albums of Blue Oyster Cult that I want, this is my least favorite. And of course that's the one I find. But it's also very hard to find. This one's harder to find on LP. This is an original copy. This one, I believe, has the insert. Yeah, it has the insert in it. Had the insert in it. Great shape, no folds. Albums, actually the cover's in really good shape. And disc super clean. I put it in got it in a little, little rice paper insert. And I have not cleaned this one yet. Actually, did I? No, I haven't cleaned this one. I should have cleaned it first before I threw it in the rice paper, but it really wasn't that super dirty. But he wanted 15 on this one. I sent my son up, because I had stuff in my hand. I wasn't trying to use the kid card, but my son was there. And I said, hey, I got him a $10 bill. I said, hey, can you go give this guy, see if this guy will take $10 for this? And he was just like, oh. And he looked at his friend who was selling records, and he's like, and they're just having this look, stared at each other. I don't know. Would you give me 12 for it? I had 2 ones in my pocket, so I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, here, Kai, give him the $2. So I got it for 12. I did get a couple of bucks off, but everybody was just like, oh, it's like they're, you're killing them there to get a couple of bucks off of something. I think personally I should be lucky they're selling things, but then the last place that I bought from, the first thing I found, actually, I'll do this in order. First thing I found was Tales of Topographic Oceans. Now, it was funny because I put this in a sleeve, but this was in his $5 bin. Well, I didn't know it was $5 bin, but he had a $5 bin. Next to it, he had what we would continue like X, Y, and Z, and then he had this one in front sealed. It wasn't reissued; it was like original copies sealed. And I said to the guy, I said, "Are the ones back here?" Because it wasn't marked of a $5 box. I said, "Are these $5 boxes a continuation from here?" And then this is. He's like, "Oh yeah. Everything in there's $5." So I was going through and I hit the Yes vein, and they did have Yes songs, which I do want. That's the 3 album set from the 70s. I do want that, but I looked over his, and the cover, it's a big, long, you fold the gatefold out, it's like, it's huge. And the album sleeve was super bad ring wear. Everything inside of it was the first disc was really dirty. I couldn't tell if it was scratches. A lot of like somebody must have had schmutz all over their hands and had fingerprints on the edge. The middle disc, though, I looked at, it was fine. Sorry, it was the third disc, the last disc. It had a huge scrape on it, and it's like, it's $5. That's cheap. But I mean, I don't even mind paying $15, $20 for that if I can find it, in better condition. So that one I held out for. I was like, but it had a little Tails. It has a little bit of ring wear, but Tails is in pretty good shape. Of course, the big gatefold that opens up with all the Roger Dean goodness, and there's the big Roger Dean artwork on the outside. The records, I got one. I just finished listening to the first one, and I've got it cleaned. I've got to clean and listen to the second one, so I'm in the process of that right now. But $5 for Tales of the Epigraphic Ocean. So my Yes collection also is getting almost finished. And then, of course, again with Yes, I did find this one. Now, this one he had in the other bins for $7, and he did take $5 for it. And it's the first time I've seen a Close to the Edge album under $10 with nobody's initials, no writing on it. They had another one there from some other booth, and somebody had wrote Cindy something on the front of it. It's got the original insert, of course. The disc is very clean. I did clean it myself and listened to it. Flawless. I still need to. I gotta get some more. I kind of want to go through and just replace all of the outer and inner sleeves that I have. Maybe the inner sleeves I could keep, but the outers I'd like to get the heavier ones like this, but newer. So, but for now I'm not really overly worried about it. But I did get Close to the Edge, and of course it's hard. I'm not going to take this one out. This one's hard to get back into the sleeve, but it's got the gatefold as well. And if you know Yes, this is probably one of the most, next to the 80s stuff with 90125 and of course Fragile. Close to the Edge is like one of the quintessential prog rock bands of all time to have. It's got a You and I on it. It's got Close to the Edge on it. Siberian Kachoo. I mean, this is an awesome album. I mean, I have owned it in the past, but now I've got it again. So I picked up 5 albums, 2 really good scores. Like I said, the first Blue Oyster Cult and Warriors of the Edge of Time by Hawkwind. I did not think I was going to get those, and those are the 2 of the records that I got. So I'm pretty happy on that one. Saw a lot of Rush. Didn't see any Rush reissues. Saw a lot of original Rush, and people wanted a lot of money in very bad shape. It's like, okay, I'm not going to spend $35, $48 for Fly By Night when I could just go on and buy the reissue for $23.99 on Amazon. So there's that. Moving Pictures, 2112. Again, they just wanted way too much for it, and there wasn't a lot of Rush. Not a lot of people had much Rush. Sorry. So, all in all, it was a good show. I think I bought more at this show than I bought last show. I did buy the Asia albums last one, and I did get those Angel albums. The Angel albums, I don't know if I want to keep. Most of them are in bad shape. I might dump the Angel albums. We'll see on those. But all in all, my collection now is, I've got 89 records, right? Yeah, 89 records, almost 90. I've made a list of the records that I still want, and it's, like I said, there's, I think, 50 records, maybe 60 records on this list, and and some of them I'm really grasping at straws, like, as I'm like, oh, I guess I want these, I like the band, Again, we're still talking now, we're up to like 150 records. I can't, even to push it to 200 records, I can't think of another 50 records without me just grabbing, like, oh, let's take the whole catalog of blah, 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 Even some of the bands that I really like, I'm kind of picky on which ones I want. I don't want everything in their catalog. So let's look at that here real quick. And these are the records that I still need by the bands that I like. These are the Blue Oyster. Sorry. You can blow this up. Can I blow this up? I'm pretty sure I can. This is a very limited word pad thing here, but let's zoom in just so you can see these better. So, Blue Oyster Cult, I still need Spectres, didn't see it at all. Some Enchanted Evening, the live album. Revolution by Night, Club Ninja, and Imaginos. That pretty much takes me all to the end of 1989. Those are very hard to find. I don't think they have an LP version of Career of Evil, which would be the best of that I got in like 1990. If I could find it, I would get it. My son's got it on, and I bought it for my son on CD. As far as record, I think it exists. I haven't really gone hardcore looking for it, but I guess I'll put that on the list just in case it exists. Blue Oyster Cult, Career of Evil, and this is a compilation, or best of, or whatever you want to call them. I usually mark them as a compilation or live or soundtrack. At least I try to. So I don't have much Blue Oyster Cult left to get. I mean, I don't really like. There's the Bad Channel soundtrack. There's, a couple of his albums. There's one in like the early 2000s, and then there's the new one, and then that new like Lost album. And I think there's like a Soft White Underbelly or a Stark Forest Group Lost album. I don't know. Maybe. Again, that would be stretching my collection to getting things that I'm not really overly want. I still don't like the new Blue Oyster Cult albums. I mean, no offense to them, but I like, this goes for a lot of bands. I like bands from like 1970 to 1990, 1991. That's pretty much all I like to listen to, with the exception of Ghost. Ghost is the only modern band that I really like, because basically Ghost is Blue Oyster Cult of, the 2010s and forward. Cheap Trick, the first album, they did have the first album there, they wanted like $15 for it, I'm like, In Color, did not see In Color. One on One I saw, again, they wanted like 15, again, they only had so much money to spend, so I had to pick what I had to pick. Next Position, Please, didn't see it. I did see Standing on the Edge. I don't really like that album, and it's even like Doctor, I didn't see Doctor, but these two albums are kind of, I don't want to say they're throwaway albums, but they're just kind of like, there's no hits on them. This is when Tom Peterson wasn't in the band. I don't know. But if you want to go from the first Cheap Trick album up to, say, Lap of Luxury, or maybe Busted, but I haven't put it on the list. That's pretty much my Cheap Trick albums I like. I mean, I did have Wake Up with the Monster on CD when it came out in like 96, but again, as you can tell, I do not like the 90s. The 90s was not a good time for me. Like I said, I was in my 20s for most of the 90s, and, here's the thing. I mean, when I was in high school, as you can tell, I'm listening to a lot of music that's old at the time, It's, 15, 18, 20 years old music. Well, maybe not that old, but it was old music then, right, as far as 20 years back. It's weird to think about stuff like Ghost. Ghost's 2010, their first album. They're 14 years old. I think I mentioned that too. It's like getting into Ghost like this in the last year is like me getting into Rush in 1987 with Hold Your Fire and Power Windows and the Show of Hands tour. It's just funny. But, yeah, where was I? Anyways, Cheap Trick. I'll get those albums if I can find them at a decent price and finish up the collection. Hawkwind, now, I'm picky with my Hawkwind. There's a lot of Hawkwind albums, and there are a lot of compilations, which I find, There's a lot of albums that I don't like. Like anything in the 90s, I'm not a fan of. Like Electric Teepee and Space Ritual. Not Space Ritual, Space Bandits. They're okay. I remember seeing Space... When I first discovered Hawkwind, I think was when the Space Bandits album came out, because I didn't know what it was. I just see this album that says Hawkwind. It's like, I think it was 1990, and I was like, what's that album? Hawkwind, I've never heard of these people. And then, of course, there we go. There started the rabbit hole that I went down. And I had already been a Elric fan. And so when I discovered, like, you know, Chronicles of the Black Sword, Live Chronicles, I was just like, oh my goodness, right? I'll get into those. I'm going to save my Elric spiel for that stuff whenever I find these albums, if I do. I could do a whole video on just the Elric series, and obviously watch my last video with Rodney Matthews. He did the Elric artwork and stuff. So Elric, to me, like, if you take Lord of the Rings, you take like the Conan series, which I love the Conan series, but if you took Conan, you took Lord of the Rings, you took, you know, Amber Chronicles, you take any of those classic fantasy, you know, stories, fantasy, you know, sword and sorcery type stories, you know, and novels, I gotta say, hands down, Elric is my favorite. I don't want to see an Elric movie, but I'm surprised they haven't made one yet, because they seem like they're buying up all these properties to make stuff on everything. I'm just surprised they haven't done an Elric. But at the same time, I'm glad, because I know they're going to fuck it up. And they're going to make it weird, and it's just not going to have that flavor. If they could have made an Elric movie like in the early 80s, and it was an early 80s movie, even with the limitations of the early 80s, like Conan, I think it would have been awesome. Even if it was cheesy, or even if it was like, oh, I don't know. I just think just because of the time period, it would hit. That would have been a perfect time. But you know, who knows if they're going to make one ever on it. But that's one of those stories. It's a classic, you know, fantasy sword and sorcery, you know, novel series that they haven't done yet. But so yeah, so Hawkwind. So I pretty much want the first few albums, which I guess they call the UA years. I think it's United Artists years, which there's a Stasis. So when I did discover Hawkwind, I also discovered this album on CD called Stasis, which was a best of, as a compilation of 71 to 75. I think that's two. I think that includes Hall of the Mountain Grill, and including Space Ritual Live. I think it's the first 5 albums here. Is this compilation, and that's pretty much that was before I even discovered the Chronicles of the Black Sword, Live Chronicles, and I was like, oh, I was already in love with this band then. And then when I heard this stuff hit, I was like, whoa. And then in the 90s, I ended up getting Hall of the Mountain Grill, Church of Hawkwind. I ended up getting Love in Space. Now, Love in Space was a live concert. I had a double disc that I got from Borders, where my friend was working at the time, and he actually sold it to me and gave me his discount. But it was $36 for a double CD then, so, and it was an import. So, you know, it's weird how that was 1996. That's almost 30 years ago. You know, spending $36 on a double album record. Now I'm hemming and hawing because I want to spend $35 on an LP. It's just like, but you know, I had less, it was the 90s, and I had a decent job, you know, my living conditions were okay at the time, and I didn't have a lot of responsibility then. I didn't have a son, for one thing, and, you know, I was basically just working to live to work kind of thing, you know, chasing the ladies, trying to find some ladies, so, you know, I had money to burn, I guess, at that time. And so $35 dropping on an album was like nothing to me. Like, all right. I mean, it seemed a little pricey, but I mean, I didn't really hesitate. Now it's just like, you want $35 for that? 30 years later, you know what I mean? $35 in 1996 today is probably like, what, closer to $100? Time's weird. Time is just the way everything is happening. I swear, you know, everybody keeps talking about the simulation. I can't say that for certain, but I mean, it definitely feels weird. But yeah, so these are the Hawkwind albums I'm looking for the most part. There's one other one that I had that I cannot find it. in their discography, and I'm like, did I imagine this? It wasn't a best of because I had a couple of like original songs on this. I remember one where I don't know what it was, but I can't find that one. And it could be very well be a compilation or best of because they have so many of them. I just can't find it. It was on CD too. So this is the first I've never had an Hawkwind album on record too. So the new one I got, the Warriors on the Edge of Time, is my first one on record. Iron Maiden, I guess I'm just going to close it out with I Need Number of the Beast. I don't care about the first two albums. No offense to what's his face, the lead singer. I like the Bruce Dickinson stuff the best. And Number of the Beast obviously is quintessential. I just don't have it yet. No Prayer for the Dying. I love Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. There's that album, which is kind of the weird album. And then Fear of the Dark, which came out, I think, the year I graduated high school, or the year after. And I'm done. Like I said, Brave New World's a great album. I probably in the future, maybe sometime, the new one, Senjutsu. It's a good album. It's double album. It's going to be almost $50 to buy it. It's just like, I don't know. I put Jethro Tull in here because, like I said, I'm like going, is that really all the albums? I mean, there are bands that I do like. Do I really want their catalog, or at least some of their catalog? And for now, I put on Jethro Tull, starting with Benefit, 1970. Aqualung, classic album, Thick as a Brick. Love Thick as a Brick. I mean, my son's got Thick. My son has, I think he has Aqualung, he has Benefit, Thick as a Brick, and I think he has Heavy Horses. For my collection, I guess, I don't know, I guess I don't really need them, because if he inherits my collection, he's already got those albums if he doesn't get rid of them. Yeah, so he has Stormwatch, too. I don't think I've ever listened to War Child, and I've never listened to Stormwatch, never listened to A, or Broadswords and the Beast. I've pretty much, the albums I really listened to that I had on CD was Benefit, Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Heavy Horses. Those are probably, and Songs from the Wood. Those are pretty much the main albums that I listened to. Still need that first Police album to finish out my Police collection. Rush, like I said, I'm still trying to put my Rush collection together. And of course my Rush collection starts with Rush and stops at Presto. Not going to go, they had Roll the Bones there, by the way, on record. And I think that was probably the last record that they produced on LP back in the day. They have not reprinted Presto, which I had Presto on record. They have not reprinted Presto, Roll the Bones, or Counterparts. I know Counterparts exists on record, which I guess that would be the last one, because I've seen it at the record store in Midland. He wants like $80 for it. I guess it's pretty rare. I don't even know if it really got released here in the States. That might even be just a Canadian release. Because I thought Roll the Bones was the last one they put on record. I bought Roll the Bones on a CD because I just got a CD player for the first time. So I bought it on CD, and then I bought Counterparts on CD. Unfortunately, I bought Test for Echo on CD. And that was the last album I bought by Rush, because I just do not like the new stuff. But I have... so Presto for me really is the end of my Rush. Maybe I'd probably, if I could find it, I'd probably put Chronicles on there. And just like also the old one, which they did have a copy there, but it was totally jacked up. They had an archives, a double album archives of Rush, which I might, if I see that in a good shape, I'd probably buy that. Which I think was like right after Hemispheres, I think, or right around there sometime. Or maybe it was after Permanent Waves. I can't remember when I looked that up. But I still need Fly By Night. Like I said, they had a lot of these there. Actually, they had Power Windows, Hold Your Fire. I didn't see Show of Hands. I would have bought Presto. Presto's another one that goes for like $50. And if I saw it there and it was like at like $20, $25, and it was decent, I would have bought Presto. No, I would have paid that much for it. But I'll get it eventually. They're not going anywhere. They've got reissues out. I guess I'd probably going to get most of these in reissues, but I'll finish my Rush collection again. finish that up. Now, Tangerine Dream, they're like Hawkwind. You've got to be really particular, unless you just got a lot of money and you don't care. If you're on a budget, you've got to really look at what you really want. And most of these, if not all of these, are not available in reissue. You have to get originals, and they are hard to find. Really hard. I didn't see one Tangerine Dream album at the con. So, Phaedra, would be the first one I would get. They break them down to years. This is considered the Virgin years. I'm assuming it's because they're on Virgin Records. I don't know. I never had a Tangerine Dream album on record, so I couldn't tell you. I learned about Tangerine Dream right here with Optical Race and Lily on the Beach, which is considered, I think, I can't remember not the Pink. So the first 4 albums, which I don't like, which are like Electronic Meditation, Zeit, Alpha Centauri. I think they're just too experimental and too, they don't really have a feel to them that I like. I mean, some people love that. I don't really like that. I would start with Phaedra, because Phaedra is my favorite album. And Phaedra, it begins the Virgin years, and so we got Phaedra, Rubicon. I don't have any of the live albums on here, like Ricochet. I'll probably put them on, but for now, these are just studio albums. And also, I don't have any of the soundtracks on there, like the Legend soundtrack, or like Wavelength, or The Sorcerer, or The Thief, The Keep. Oh, and The Thief, yeah. So these are just the studio, non-live, non-soundtrack albums. And it's Phaedra, Rubicon, Stratosphere, Cyclone, Force Majeure, Tangram, Exit, White Eagle, and Hyperborea. Now, there's a time in between here that I'm not a big fan of. I think it's the Blue years, which is like Poland, and I can't remember what else is on there. But I love La Park. Green Desert's okay. Live Miles is okay too, but I put those on there because that's a specific time period. I could probably ditch those 2 off my list, and I'd be fine. And then, of course, this is when I got into them here, which is like 90, 91, 92. Actually, I think 90. I think 90. Or Melrose was the end of it. So a lot of people don't like Melrose. Not Melrose Place, that's what I always think, but Melrose is very New Age contemporary, the New Age sampler with Melrose. But I like Optical Race. I love the album cover too. And Lily on the Beach I really like. A lot of people don't like Lily on their Beach, but I really like it. I think it's great. Funny thing is, my friend who got me into the band, last name is Lily. So every time I think of Lily on the Beach, I think of him and his basement and going to find some of these albums on CD with him. Remember, I got my CD player for the first time in 1992. I was relying on records and cassettes up until 91. I know CDs came out, but I was like, these are really expensive. I don't have a CD player. The stereo I had, my turntable and cassette, I didn't really want to buy a unit with it because, the CD players weren't cheap, and I was still in high school and didn't have a lot of money. But I did end up getting a hi-fi all-inclusive dealio in 92, and it was my first CD player. So I started to, buy CDs, and, I was done with records, as most people were. I was done with cassette tapes, as most people were. And that was the 90s. And again, look what I'm buying now. I'm buying albums. I guess I don't really like the 90s. And the CDs, to me, I just keep thinking is the 90s. Let me move myself since I'm in the way here. Last bit would be the rest of Yes. Now, like I said, Fragile, they had a crappy copy there. I can get Fragile. I can get a reissue of it for $23 too. I'll get it eventually, but Fragile, there's the Yes songs, the live album, Yesterdays, which pretty much, I don't want the very first 2 albums before the Yes album, which is like the just called Yes and Time in a Word, but, because I don't really like most of that, but I'll take Yesterdays, which basically is a compilation of the best of stuff off those 2 albums, so I just take that. Yes shows another live, that's right after the Going for the One album, right before Termato. That's a great live show. I had that on CD. It was an import. I got it at Harmony House, Berkeley, Japanese import. I'd like to get that. And then Classic, I have Classic Yes. I gave it to my son. You could get those a dime a dozen. You can find those for like in dollar bins, the Classic Yes album. I'll eventually pick it up if I find a decent copy in decent shape again. Just a compilation best of. Union, they have a copy of it at Electric Kitsch, my local record store. I got that album when it came out. It came out the year I graduated high school, and I got it on cassette tape. It was pretty much one of the last cassette tapes I bought. I don't like Union. That's the concert I went to, too, was the Union tour with the stage and the round, and that's where, like, Yes Years, the retrospective videotape is from that time. But I like Yes Stories, the box set, because I bought that off of the Columbia House Records and Tapes, and I bought it on CD in 1992 because I just got a CD player, and I bought the box set. Now, I've seen that before. I know they have a record version of it, and that's what I'd ultimately like to find is the box set for Yes Stories. But if I find, I've seen it once and I didn't buy it, and it was only $20. If I see the Yes Story box set again on CD with the 4 CDs, I'll buy it. Even, I know I don't currently have a CD player except for, well, I mean I do on my computer, but I had a CD drive there. Actually, it's a Blu-ray drive, but I don't know. Another one I got that I wanted on record, never got it on record, but did have it on CD, bought it in 1992. Bought a lot of CDs in 92 when I first got that CD player. I kind of went hog wild, and it was between that and going down to Harmony House, Berkeley, like almost every other day to look for the Japanese. I just go there at least once a week and look at all their Japanese imports, because a lot of this stuff was hard to find here in the United States. A lot of it was imported. That's where I got like the Chris Squire Fish Out of Water, which I do have on LP. The John Anderson, Elias Sosanhillo, one of my favorite albums of all time. When I get that album, I will do a full video on just Elias Sosanhillo. It's a lot of things about that album. I just have a lot of memories, a lot of ideas. It was very inspiring for me to do a lot of things. Like I said, a lot of these albums, I mean, like I said, that's why I cherish them so much, is like they're snapshots in time for nostalgia. They give me the memories. They take me right back to a specific time, and I remember what I was doing, and, that whole, like I said, I think, sorry, let me put you back in full speed. We'll end this video. It's going to be a shorter one, but if you, this is my experience with music. It just in a nutshell, boiled down, and it's always about getting some type of new technology. So I would say my first introduction to music, obviously, was in the late 70s, specifically 1978. I got an 8-track player, and my parents gave me the hand-me-down record player stereo because they got a new one. And that's when I got the Kiss albums, and I got into Kiss, and I was in kindergarten, right? That's my first real exposure to music, because I got a means to play the music. Remember, this is before VCRs, so, I mean, you couldn't see a movie at home unless it was on TV. So being able to have some kind of media that you could put on, or even an 8-track, this was before cassette tapes. I mean, cassette tapes were out, but I mean, the 8-track was the thing, and the record. You had some way you could sit there and replay and play this stuff over and over again, which I did. The next one would have been 1983, when I was in 5th grade. That's when I got my first Walkman and my first boombox, a jam box or whatever. My mom always called it a boombox, ghetto blaster, some people call them. I got my that stereo. And my sister also got her the record player, the Sharp, which eventually I ended up inheriting. And that was another, so let's go back to 83. So 83, a lot of albums came out too, got into a lot of music. MTV was big, and I started getting cassette tapes because I could play cassettes in both my, what do you call it? Sorry, let me go back to also back to the midpoint between that. My dad had the 8-track player also in the kitchen, which I had a lot of stuff on, or he had a lot, well, family had a lot of stuff on 8-track that I listened to. Now, in 83, like I said, that's when I got the first started getting the cassettes, and then started buying cassettes and got a cassette case with cassettes in it. I had a few records here and there that I still had. I don't know what happened to my Kiss stuff at the time. I think I still had the Kiss Alive too. In, I would say, 1987, that's when my sister ended up, she got back from college. She ended up giving me the Sharp, which had a turntable on top and had the cassette tape player with the desktop speakers, kind of like what I got now. That's when I started to really still buying cassette tapes, but then by 88, like I said, when I went down to Tora Tuesday and after the first Rush concert that I went to, I started to get into records pretty heavily, and that was where the record thing started, because I had a nice turntable, yada yada yada. And my turntable, you could stack up discs, I think 5 discs on top, and then they'd play all the A-sides, flip them over, play all the B-sides, and I could just let them go while I'm sitting there at my drawing table drawing. My next thing was 1992 when I got, a CD player for the first time, and then it was CDs, and it stayed CDs for a pretty long time, up until I basically just stopped really getting it. I stopped buying new music because I didn't like anything after the 90s, or after the late 80s, or 90, 91, 92. I didn't like anything new. And then it started again here last summer, essentially. Right around my birthday, when I bought the new stereo system with the turntable and everything. So, and then that's where the record collection started again. So we're starting over. Well, not starting over from the beginning, but we're kind of starting over. At 50 years old now. That's my record collecting music history in a nutshell. It's boiled down to just if I had like years, like the Virgin years or the Red years or the Pink years, those would be the different eras for me as well, by technology, by the different technologies. So, all right, I think I talked enough about that. Again, this was the record show. The next one is not until this October, so they have 2 a year, and of course I did the video on the Octobers of last year, so check that one out. I'll probably go to the October one this year as well, and check that out and see. Hopefully I'll still be collecting records. Hopefully I'll still be here by then. So there's that. All right, remember, like and subscribe if you like anything. Hit me up. Tell me your stories. Like I said, I love to talk about the stuff too. I'm not just into comic books. Obviously, I like my my records, and I would say that those are probably my 2 biggest collections right now. Because the action figures, I think, is done. Is comic books and records, and I still get books like art books and stuff. Maybe not so many like our novels anymore because I'm not really reading them, but art books I like to get my art books as well. All right, I'll catch you then and see you on the next video. All right, bye bye.